All right. Rolling.
Yay.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. I feel like we've done this before.
No, maybe.
We've had some technical difficulties, to say the least. So, with that being said, welcome back for the first time.
Hello.
Hello. All right. So, welcome to the Release Room podcast number 1.
Right.
With Sommer Pridgen as our very first guest, who is my daughter. I am Glen Pridgen.
Yay.
Welcome to the show. And what is the Release Room, you ask?
I do ask.
It is the Release Room is this room here. It is the opposite of a panic room. It is where we come and we get it all out. Just talk about whatever we want to talk about. So I invite friends, family, people of interest. Movie stars, Brad Pitt probably soon, Josh Groban, exactly, to come in and just sit down and let's talk. There's only one rule. I have one rule and one rule only, and that is no politics. You can go to Facebook. If you want your politics, go to Facebook and look at your timeline, and I'm sure it's full of a puke fest. Yeah. So I wanted to stay away from that, but it's lots of ideas, a lot of cool things to talk about. Some guests coming up. I've got a stem cell scientist that I'm going to be talking to. Yeah, I got the great TJ Edmond coming on tomorrow. Work out all the kinks, TJ. I don't know what it stands for. Tyrone Jamichael, I think is what it is.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So TJ Edmond, he will be on tomorrow, and then just lots of other cool things. So really, it reminds me of a joke. What is the Release Room? Reminds me of a joke of this preacher, and he's at his congregation, and it's about he's doing a sermon on "You're sick as your secrets," and if anyone's been through rehab or any of that, then
not yet.
Not yet, right? You not yet. Good. Then you know you're as sick as your secret. So the preacher says, everybody wants you to get it out. Everybody wants everyone to stand up and tell me one thing you hadn't told anybody. Let's get it out, people. In the back, Mr. Green raises his hands, says, Brother Green, get it out, Brother Green. Brother Green stands up and he goes, well, every now and then I like to drink a little too much. He goes, doesn't it feel good to get it out, Brother Green? You are healed. You are healed of this drinking problem. Give that to God. Then the guy, Mr. Johnson, raises his hands. Brother Johnson, you. And Brother Johnson says, well, every now and then I hit my wife when I get mad. And he goes, stop, you got to stop that. Stop it right now. But telling it's first part of healing. Get it out, Brother John. So he looks around and he goes, Brother Dickie, in the back, Brother Dickie. Dickie raises his hand and says, Pastor, every now and then I like to go out back and pleasure one of my goats. Pastor says, well, I wouldn't have told that. So that's the line.
Oh, God.
That's the line.
There it is. There's the line.
There's the line. So basically what it is tell it all, but no politics and no goats.
No goats.
No goats. We'll do without the goats. So have you made national news lately? What have we been doing? So a story we'll save for another time. Summer and me were part of a big news story, and our other daughter, and something we'll keep within the family. But yeah, so it's been an exciting time last few months. However, during this horrible event to show the healing of music, we scored front row seats, front row center to the Bare Naked Ladies. Yeah. And that was amazing. So we were basically on the stage.
Yeah.
It felt like
much, yeah.
So at Chastain Park. So at Chastain, so what you have is you have the you sit at tables, and they say picnic tables, but it's just cafeteria tables, and you all crowd on one side, and nobody is allowed in front of you. Like you own the front row. Like people can't come in front of you. Yep. That don't live on that front row. So it was like us and the band and nobody between us. So basically the result of that was me and KT Tunstall, I think now we're in a long-term relationship.
I think so too.
The way I define it. Yeah, the way I define it. Yep, I got multiple high fives, 2 picks,
Yep.
a shout out, and a drumstick from the Bare Naked Ladies. So I did pretty good. It was a pretty good night, and it was just a good night for us to kind of put what's happened in the past, at least for a night.
It was great.
Yeah, that was something big fun. So that's our, what was that, our 4th Bare Naked Lady show, 3rd or 4th together?
4th, I think.
Yeah.
4th, yeah.
I can't. I always thought it was 20, but I'm at 16 Bare Naked Lady concerts. So
that's still a lot.
still a lot.
Still
So
a good number.
They are my favorite band, faux show, no doubt about it. Okay, so that was a lot of fun, and then I got to go see Mary Margaret this weekend. It was a blast. Next weekend we're going down for her birthday, and we're gonna have some birthday fun. And actually get to see her in person for the first time in a couple months. So that's going to be fun. So anybody wondering, all things on that end going well and going better than even I thought they would go. So all good. Now, interesting, on the way back in, there was a shooting that happened, a road rage incident. And it reminded me of your first road rage incident.
What you talking about?
So reminded me of your first one where we're at Jordan's birthday party, and I had a little bit of a go on the way to the party with some gentleman who either he didn't like my driving or I didn't like his, and it ended with me yelling at him on the way to the party, which I'm not proud of. Shout out to that guy. So if I had known that Jordan was getting a car, a drivable car, I would have acted better. So Jordan had a car, one of those little push cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get in the push car, and you start driving the push car, and you stop, and you point out the window, and you say, "Hey, you want a piece of me?"
We were really little. I feel like that should be clarified.
You were really
children.
Children
In a push car. We were very young.
Exactly. So everybody in the room they turned and looked at me, and I was like, "I'm gonna talk to her mother." So that's unacceptable behavior.
That's where it all began.
That's where it all began. So yeah, right. Okay. So with that being said, made me think of a few more comical, not so comical moments. I have a couple of stories to tell. One, I have Hook Boy, the story of Hook Boy. So Hook Boy started as all my road rage incidents begin. It was his fault. For sure, no doubt, it was his fault.
Obviously.
So, but had running. It was Christmas, and I was going to the Kroger to get something for Mom. This is over off in Sandy Springs, at Kroger in Sandy Springs, and so I'm driving, and this kid is driving, and he's staring right at me, and he's playing chicken with me. He's pulled into my lane, and he's accelerating towards my car, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, and then at the last minute, he jerks off, boom, to the right, and he just stares me down the whole way through. And I'm like, you know what? Screw that. I'm coming after you. Yeah. So I flip the car around and I go chase him. He pulls into a parking lot for Gold's Gym, and I pull behind him, and I jump out of the car. And he kind of jumps out, kind of not. He makes his way out of the car, and he has 2 prosthetic metal legs. He's wearing shorts, and he has 2 prosthetic hooks. And he's coming after me, and he's yelling at me the whole time, "What are you gonna do to me? What are you gonna do to me?" And I'm yelling back, "I don't know. I don't know." Like, I'm not prepared for this at all. I'm prepared for most things but
Nobody's
this.
Prepared
No.
for that
So he's coming at me, and I'm backing up. So I decide to run around to the passenger side of the car. I get in the passenger door, and as I go to the other side, I had rolled the window down to yell at him. So now he's leaning in the window, snapping at me, and he can't get a good angle with his hook arm. So I lean my foot over and put it in reverse, and I'm like driving with my left foot, my right hand to get out of there. In the meanwhile, his sister's yelling at him, "Why do you always do this? Why do you always do this?" And I'm driving away, and it's like, what has happened? That was the craziest thing. It was
I
like,
can't believe that.
yeah. So Hook Boy. So if anybody else out there has Hook Boy stories, because apparently he
does
this
it all the time.
all the time. I would love to hear from it. I was probably 20, 25 years ago. So that was a long time ago. I was 9. So that would happen a while. It was a while ago. So that was one. And then I thought of 3. That was one. And then the next one is sad guy. Emotional guy. So emotional guy, he looked like he was in a hurry and he passed me. It was a 1-lane. It was on Forest Park. And he passed me and cut me off. I had to slam my brakes on to keep from getting hit. And that, game on, right? Game on. So I'm driving to him and I'm driving at him, tailing him and honking and honking. And I think he gives me the finger or something. And I pull up. He gets into a left turn and I pull to the right of him. And I start yelling as I'm pulling up, "Are you crazy?" And he looks at me and he's sobbing, crying. And he says, I am crazy.
God.
And then he drove away and I just sat there. It just, I'm still trying to process it. And even today, every now and then I think, I hope he's doing okay.
I hope he sees this.
Hope he sees this. Shout out to Emotional Guy in Forest Park 20-something years ago. It's all around the same time. So, okay. So that guy, yeah, dude, I think about it all the time.
Yeah. I'm sure he's fine.
I'm sure
he's fine.
He's fine.
He's probably just
sure the cancer is in remission. Right? I'm sure his dog lived through the horrible whatever it went through. So, all right, and then the last one actually is probably 10 years ago, a little more recent. I was driving to CVS, and this girl was in the lane next to me, and I think she creeped into my lane a little bit, and so I honked at her, and she honked back, and then I honked, and she honked, and then she took a left, and I went straight. Well, the CVS is here in the middle, right? So she takes a left, I take a right. She takes a left in the CVS, I take a left in the CVS, and we meet on the other side, and she's got a convertible. And she starts to yell at me, because now, like, my window's down, she's in a convertible, and I just stop and I look at her and I say, "Oh my God, you are gorgeous." And she goes, "Oh, well, thank you." It's like, "You're welcome."
It's just that easy.
And so she pulls, yeah, right? So she pulls into the parking space, and I was too chicken to go in. I couldn't, face her without my car. So I left, and she went in. So she wins because she got in, and she got a compliment. And me, I just felt like a jackass, basically. So that was...
could have been my stepmom. You should have gone in.
I should
have gone in.
Should have gone in.
Would have been the perfect story.
It would have been. You're right. It would have been. So there's that. So I'll let that one get away. And then, I got a whole bunch of just nothing.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of other ones. But I in my older, more mature state, I don't have any road rage issues anymore. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
I'm
just starting mine.
Are you?
I'm sure I'll rack some.
Oh,
But
okay.
I mean, I don't have a death wish, so I'm not gonna try to follow people. But I do get road rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. Just ask Sam.
Okay.
He drives everywhere now.
Oh yeah, that's good. Good, Sam. How about him? How's his?
Yeah, he's a passive aggressive driver.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has road rage too. But he has a tiny sports car, and it's really loud, it's really fast, and it's bright red.
Right.
So he zooms in and out of cars sometimes. So naturally, something's gonna happen. He's gonna cut somebody off. Somebody's gonna cut him off. Yeah, but he's not as bad as me with the road rage.
Right. So, well, as we talked about earlier, guy got shot 3 times. Looks like he's gonna live, and it's not worth it.
Mm-mm.
So we all have to take a chill on the road rage. for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Yeah. So what else is in the what else is in the news? So you know what, we had talked earlier. We were talking about the whole Me Too hashtag thing, and I had brought up something that it kind of backfired on me, which we'll talk about in a sec. But it led to an interesting conversation about how the difference between dating at your age and at my age. So, you know, at your age, with your age of folks, it is just a lot of access. You got Tinder, you got all the online dating apps, and it's all immediate gratification. What is the state of dating with folks at your age?
It's way more casual. I think the goal is different. So, I mean, you have hooking up, seeing each other, dating, things like that. It's usually not as long term as I'm sure it sounds like it used to be. So, a lot more casual. I also think women are a little more empowered now, as far as who makes the move or things like that. So it's a little different, a little more casual, and women have more of a say so in a lot of different ways. So that's cool.
Is it just the swiping? You talking about say so in that, or
Well, hookup culture is different. In college, I mean, you just look on Facebook and Instagram. There are a bunch of stories and stuff. I mean, you have Snapchat and Tinder and all that stuff. So it's way more casual. But I think there's less slut shaming.
oh god,
For sure. So that's going to be interesting to watch how that changes dating too. So.
yeah, definitely. So, like for me, the big difference on my end is I think the problems for people your age and the problems for people my age, like you guys have little tiny infant problems that are kind of cute. Oh, she drank too much at a party, or her ex-boyfriend is kind of a douche, you know. But I mean, he's leaving school next year, so we won't see him. Here, at my age, uh, like she doesn't drink too much, or he doesn't drink too much sometimes at parties. Like they're alcoholics, like they have real troubles, real problems. Um, they don't have an ex-boyfriend who's kind of a jerk who they don't have to see. They have ex-husbands who refuse to pay child support and won't keep the kids if they know they have a date, and or they have kids and one of them has a drug problem. You know, they're fully mature, dead-on problems. And if they have kids, you can see them every other weekend, and maybe have dinner during the week, right? But then the mom needs free time too, so you know its access is really different. So it's really hard. The other thing that I see at our age is, okay, so you got the hookup culture. At our age, you have, hey, I've been married twice. I don't want to get married again, and you just have a lot of access to a lot of people. If you're fairly attractive, why settle down when I can just go on dates every weekend with different people and sort of play the field? So in that instance, I think women have a lot of they're empowered a lot too, because you know they have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Both sides do. So why settle down? So if you're someone who wants to settle down, it's a tough road, because it's hard. If you find someone worth dating, there's a whole lot of people that want to date them, and a whole lot of access. So I think the other difference is when we were younger. When I was younger, there weren't any of the apps, so you had to meet people. So everything to meet was geared towards getting out and actually getting face to face with people and looking at them. So, you know, your mom and I met playing flag football, so you joined flag football leagues,
Right, yeah.
or you went to the bar and went out with friends, or you did. There was this when I first got into online dating. There was this 8 at 8, which my buddy Sari Catherine ran, and 4 professional, 4 men, 4 women went out and would have dinner together. But again, face to face, could you develop any chemistry or any of that? So in there was no swiping right or left. You actually got to see someone in person and develop some chemistry. I think now it is, like you said, it's very superficial. It is First, physically, am I attracted to you? I think you're cute, and if so, then you're getting a swipe right.
Mm-hmm.
And then now let's see if there's any chemistry. So I have met a lot of women who I maybe wasn't very attracted to when I met them.
Yeah.
Right. And a short time later, after getting to know them, I'm very,
Yeah.
very attracted to them. There's a girl at work, I'll have to struggle not to say her name, that I developed a rule around at this last company, which was I would have swiped left on her
Yeah.
on an app, but I would marry her, you know, now that I know her and have been
Mhm.
around her, and her
Yeah.
personality just so attractive, and everybody in the office kind of feels the same way though. Like
Yeah.
she's, you know, amazing.
Mhm.
So that's the sort of problem I think with online dating is you
Yeah.
don't give people, you know, the personality a chance,
Mhm.
and I think so that's part of the problem. Um, on your end, so you guys talk. So we had talked earlier about the same thing, about how superficial it is on your end,
Yeah.
and like meeting in person is almost secondary, right?
That's really true. I mean, with like Instagram and Facebook and all these like different social media sites, I think physically too, the bar is set a lot higher because there are so many options. There are so many people to compare to. So I mean, when you're swiping or when you're scrolling on Instagram or something, you're seeing, you know, wildly attractive, whether it's real or not, or Photoshop, women and men or whatever. So the bar is set way higher, I think, now that you have so many options and physical is what you're going off of because that's all you have online. So I think it changes also physical appearance and what we think is attractive.
Does a witty profile write up? Does that help at all?
Yeah, I mean, I have a boyfriend, so I'm not on there a lot, but I mean, well, at all.
So good. So you've cut down a bit now that you have a boyfriend. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So you've cut down a bit. That's good. It's good. Sam will like to know that.
Oh my goodness. No, I mean, I guess, yeah, personality, I mean, like you said, means a lot. That hasn't changed. Personality can make somebody very attractive and also not attractive depending on their personality.
Right.
So the profile and witty or funny or sweet or whatever, that's also kind of your snippet of their personality.
Right.
So I think it definitely would go for that.
So I'll tell you what I see a lot at my age. Dolphins. So many women with dolphins. With dolphins, kissing dolphins, swimming with dolphins, having beer with dolphins. I mean, it's like dolphins everywhere. It's dolphins.
I mean, they're cool.
They're cool. What do you see on your end?
I don't see anything.
Well, you said trying to set you up.
Well, I mean, usually if you go on cruises or you go on a vacation, swimming with dolphins is like kind of pretty high up there. I mean, it would be really cool to swim with a dolphin. I don't know. I don't see a lot of dolphins.
So many dolphins. What about the? I hear people complain of the shirtless selfie and dead animals. So like the shirtless bathroom selfie is one, and then the other one is holding up a fish.
Oh God, no!
Holding
up the dead deer.
Holding up the dead deer, the fish.
Oh my God, that to me, no.
Picture of your truck.
Mm-mm.
No.
I'm sure they have like wonderful personalities.
But...
no thanks.
You know those trust fund babies.
Yeah.
You know they are.
There's also like farmersonly.com where I think that would get more hits.
What's it called again?
Farmersonly.com. Oh my gosh, there are so many crazy websites, but Farmers Only is one of them.
Think I'll do all right on that one. Okay, may have to try Farmers Only. No, I've had one crazy Tinder story too many.
Yeah.
The craziest quick story for Tinder was meeting a guy for drinks. Okay. Have I told you that story?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. This is at Marlowe's. So usually I have a rule because I have a thing with accents that get me. Mm-hmm. If it's a guy, I ain't got nothing to do tonight. I can't go out with that person. And I can't go out with like a real heavy Southern accent. And I know it's.
Then don't go on
I'm a
Only.
linguist. Yeah, don't go.
Maybe don't go on
Don't go Farmers Only. It does. I don't know. It does something to me. So, but so really pretty girl, but wouldn't talk to me on the phone. And normally, I'm not gonna. If you don't talk to me on the phone, I'm not gonna go out with you. But Marlowe's was right down from where I worked, and the texting, was flirty and it was witty, and I liked her. I thought she was kind of okay. I'll take a chance, and she was pretty. So we agree after work to meet at Marlowe's. It's like a 3-minute drive from my office. I could walk there. So drive there, and I'm sitting in the bar and getting texts from her. Hey, I'm on the way. I'm running late. I'm running late. Then she says, I'm here in the parking lot, and I'm wearing a yellow dress. Okay. So this girl shows up, and, well, no. Come walking through the door is a man, plucked, tucked, tight yellow dress, doing his best, high heels, gives me his hand, the hand, and shakes it, and I just start laughing. And I'm like, dude, we've got to have a beer, and I have got to hear your story.
Oh my God.
And so he sat down, we had a beer, and we talked, and kind of laughed about it. And I got the telemarketer answer. Why do telemarketers call your phone all the time? Because it works, because they're making money at it, because people are falling for it. And that was kind of his response. His response was, people fall for it. Like, there are guys that I'm their fantasy. And when I show up, I know it.
Yeah.
So, but we laughed, and that was it.
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was a couple years ago when I was at Piedmont, where I was doing a project for Piedmont. So, yeah, they all got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
They loved the story. And so I started laughing, and they're like, well, and he had told me, he's like, yeah, I used my friend's picture, but I think I left that part of the story out. And they asked me, well, what was it about her that you liked?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I liked her masculine features. So, I'm a sucker for
she had a strong
jawline. Adam's up. So, yeah, I know. I mean, it is. Oh, here's the other thing that we don't have to deal with. Maybe more your age now, but like gender, what gender do you identify as? Like, it's a lot more complicated at your age than our age, I think.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah, we're still learning about it too. It's still developing. There's a lot, that is being discussed and learned too. So it's changing things. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely more interesting. So different on our end. At my age, I probably won't have to deal with it all that much. But yeah, so pretty interesting. So okay, so I think that leads us into the Me Too movement. Now we had a talk earlier, and I was pretty sure you were going to be on my side on this one. What's his name?
Aziz Ansari.
Aziz, the Aziz Ansari story, and I thought we were definitely going to see eye to eye on that one. That was going to be a quick conversation, and it was not.
No.
So one thing that you shouldn't do, that I've learned, especially with Sommer Pridgen, is don't come into a conversation and not have all the facts. Right?
Yeah.
You got to have all the facts, and I didn't exactly have all the facts, but all right. So let's first, we talk about this Me Too, and I think it's very important what Me Too is changing is kind of the definition of rape. So the standard definition of rape is you think about a woman jogging in the park and getting, attacked and pulled behind the woods and assaulted, and that's rape. It's scary. It's violent. Or you think about someone at home on a couch and someone breaking into the house, right? And that's scary. That's rape, and that's the definition. A date rape is either you get drunk and pass out and someone, violates a girl or anyone really, or it's a violent attack, and that is rape. So that's a pretty high bar for a man to meet before this whole Me Too movement of what is rape and what isn't rape. So if that's the definition, take that into the Aziz story. I don't know why I have Aziz. I have such a hard time with his name. So when you take it to the Aziz story, he goes out with a girl. She writes an article, and for the most part, she is panned, and they give her a hard time. So I listen to this story, and I hear some people talk about it, and basically, sight unseen, take their side on it, which is, he was determined, and she didn't let it happen, and she left and felt pressured into it and was mad about it and wrote an article. Again, doesn't fit the definition of rape. So let's pick up. Let's talk about the story. Let's set it up first. What happened?
Well, they met at a party and started talking. They exchanged phone numbers, and he asked her on a date. And what?
It was on me. I thought it was on you, and it was on me. And I looked down, and it got me drinking a pepper. So, no, back on you. Sorry.
And so they set up a date. She was really excited. She got to his place. They met at his apartment and had a glass of wine. Went to the restaurant, had dinner, and from what she said, it sounded like he was rushing through dinner. He was, eager to get back to the house. And so he took her back to his place, and they drank, and like not even within 5 minutes of them being in his apartment, he had completely taken his and her clothes off. He like tried to get right down to it, and she apparently throughout the night she was sending him a lot of like physical cues on that she was uncomfortable. On a couple accounts, she said, "I'm uncomfortable. Let's take it slow. I don't want to do this tonight. I don't want to do it on the first date." And he kept trying. He'd say, "Well, let's just sit on the couch then. Let's just watch TV." And
yeah, I think she said to him too, "If something happens tonight, I'm gonna hate you."
Right. If you force me to do something tonight, I'll hate you.
And I don't want to hate
you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty clear.
That's pretty strong. Especially she used the word force.
Yeah.
And he continued the behavior throughout the night. They never actually had sex. They did everything other than that. And eventually she went to the bathroom and texted her friend, and then she came back out. He still tried again, and she finally was just like, "No, I'm leaving. I want to go home." So he calls her a cab. She leaves, and he texts her the next morning, "Hey, had a really good time with you last night." And then she sends him a text message that says, "I was uncomfortable last night. Basically, explain to him what you did wasn't okay." And then she, I guess a while later, she posted the story about what had happened, and then everybody a lot of people took the side of like, well, why didn't she just leave? It wasn't rape. They didn't have sex. He didn't rape her.
All right.
And yeah.
So, and I think the fact that he was a star, and we forget this is a time. This happened a few days before he won a bunch of Golden Globes, so he's really at the top of his career. He's got a fan he's basically out on a date with, and she didn't want to lose her shot with him by saying no. Didn't say yes, and then said no many times. Said, "I don't want to do this, not tonight." Left the door open. Not on the first date. I don't want to do on the first date. I don't want to hate you after this. And he kept sticking his fingers in her throat and choking her, and she just did everything she could. And finally, she didn't let sex happen. So don't forget that. So she was very clear that she was uncomfortable, that she didn't want to, and then she would do a little bit and then stop, like he rushed through the date. They were drinking wine, and the bottle wasn't even finished when he rushed her to his apartment. So I'm thinking about, if you're watching someone on TV, meet them at a party, and a day later you're in their apartment. That's pretty overwhelming stuff.
And let's not forget that before that, he was like a huge supporter of the Me Too movement, because Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, all of that had already happened. So he had sided with it, and Time's Up and all that stuff. So he had vocally supported the whole movement and had that kind of like persona of,
right,
I support this. And so that's also something I'm sure she was thinking about. Well, he supports it. He wouldn't do this. It's maybe just making excuses for him, I'm sure.
And who's going to believe me?
Yeah.
He's this big supporter. So I think after reading the article and reading his response and really thinking about it, I think the needle on what is rape and what is force. Now, what is criminal and what is not criminal, those are two different.
Yeah.
I think those are two different conversations. So I don't think what he did was criminal, but it certainly was a creep. Yeah. And he certainly deserves the blowback that he would get and that he should have gotten. He didn't get it as much, but he certainly deserves some blowback on him. It says, hey, look, you can't support this movement and take on this persona as the guy that doesn't get lucky because he respects women too much, which was a good bit of his comedy show.
Yeah.
and then do what he did. So I think I am now more on his side, and I definitely have a lot of
Her side.
yeah, I'm on her side. Sorry, and I have a lot of negative emotions about how he handled it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if someone says I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to do this today, it's game over.
Yeah, that should
You
that
stop
should
at that
absolutely
point.
be it. And she shouldn't have to just completely stand up and storm out and leave the date. She shouldn't have to. It shouldn't get that far. Shouldn't get to the point where she storms out anyway. I mean, I think a lot of the backlash fell on her initially because they were like, well, why didn't she just leave? You know, he wasn't holding her there against her will.
Right.
Well, you know, let's focus more on him and what he did wrong. Also, I mean that he played a major role in that. You know,
Sure.
it should be on him, not
And
her.
if she didn't leave, he probably would have ended up raping her
Mhm.
based on his actions and
Yeah,
how he went.
That's definitely where it was headed.
He was
sure.
definitely humiliating her into
Mhm.
the stuff that she
Yeah.
did end up doing, and even saying she didn't want to do it, and he would still force her to do it.
Mhm.
So I'm more I fall on her side. I think what he did was creepy. What he did was someone that is extremely immature, you know, and something
Mhm.
I would expect if I had a son that was 16 years old, they wouldn't act like that at 16,
Right.
right? So, okay, so you've got me. I'm on.
Yeah.
You've won me over on this one.
Yeah, but I mean, cases like that are really important for the Me Too movement. Everyone can agree that what Bill Cosby did and what Harvey Weinstein did is just wrong. I mean, that's just flat out rape in a lot of the Harvey Weinstein cases. And Bill Cosby, it was just straight up rape. He just drugged him and raped him. Nobody disagrees that that's wrong. Everybody's, you know, yeah, all right, what he did
Right.
was bad. But Aziz Ansari caused a conversation. It caused people to, you know, look at that umbrella that covers what rape is and step outside and redefine
Yeah,
what's not okay.
and maybe it didn't redefine rape. Maybe what it redefined is what is okay and what's not okay. You know, just because you can't criminally be charged with something doesn't mean your behavior is acceptable.
Right.
And I also think, you know, boys are kind of, they learn that the more pressure you put, the more action you're going to get, and that needs to stop too. Because once someone says no, it's no.
And also giving women the power that, hey, people are standing behind you if you say no, and if you step out and say, hey, listen, this person did this and it wasn't okay and made me uncomfortable, you know, and then it used to be they would be, you know, it would be their fault, just like we saw within a lot of different cases. Well, what were you wearing? Well, why didn't she just leave? That kind of thing. Now, I think also it's giving women more power to say, hey, you know, if you're uncomfortable, you can say no, you can leave. You're supported. That's okay. Like, just because he's not raping you doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be uncomfortable and speak up and say no, stop. So,
right.
That's also good.
And if they're a star, and if they're someone of importance, your boss, your accountant, it's not okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Any amount of power you have over someone that that makes them fear they have something to lose by saying no, that puts even more responsibility. So I don't think I think we're in the process of moving the needle. I think there's a chance you can swing too far and, you know, catch some pretty decent people up in it. But I also think that it's a very useful moment right now and very advantageous for women, because I think it is giving them more tools to work with when they get in that situation.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. All right. Wow. So that's heavy. That was heavy.
Get it out.
Ooh, release it. Release it. So what? Let's see. Okay. So something that we are, maybe not a complete tag on that, but in the same neighborhood. Something we are working on is in Georgia, the age of consent. So one of our big things is to take on this age of consent law, which is unbelievable. Never thought about it until now, but so basically, here's what we have. We have a situation where it is completely legal to have sexual relations with a 16-year-old.
In Georgia and in a lot of states.
In Georgia and a lot of states, right. Now, a lot of states. So Georgia, for me, it's so shocking because we're the sex trafficking capital of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's open-ended. So there's a thing called a Romeo and Juliet law. So the Romeo and Juliet law states that, so let's say 16 plus 3 isn't a crime. So I can be two 16-year-olds all the way up to 19 could have sex, and it be within the law. But a 20-year-old, that's statutory rape. So that's non-consensual sex because you can't consent at that age. So let's just say, but in Georgia, it's it's kind of different. It is 16 and up, no matter what.
Doesn't matter what age. Yeah, if you're 16, you're fair game.
You're fair game. So you're 16, you haven't fully matured. You're in the sex trafficking capital of the world, and you're able to let's start the grooming process at 15. Let's begin the grooming process at 15, and then when they turn 16, boom, let's traffic them.
Yeah.
I can have sex with them. You can do whatever you want. And so it's a terrible law. Something funny happened in, I think it's 1996, 95 or 96. The age of consent was raised from 12 to 16. Yeah. So we're thinking you were 1. When you were 1 years old, they raised it from 12 to 16. And the Olympics were coming into town. And I don't know if that's part of it or what brought it on. But the big pushback was moms didn't want their 17-year-olds to go to jail for having sex with a 16-year-old. So they didn't want to, or their 20-year-olds because they're in love with a 16-year-old here in Georgia. I'm doing the accent. I probably shouldn't do that. But so, so things are different now. So what's different between 96 and now? We talked about it earlier with Tinder. Access. 16-year-old can jump on Tinder and they're fair game for any age man that they want. They can get on all kinds of dating apps. I think there's probably 15 or 20 of them right now that they can jump on and have immediate access to, grown men across the world. Yeah. And we had experience with that on Tinder, a 44-year-old. So it's a terrible law. So there's two things that I want to see happen. There's two possibilities here. A, do what New York did, raise it to 17. I think Hawaii, it's 18. Some places it's 18. 17. So New York, it is 17 plus 3. 17 is the age of consent, and then it's a misdemeanor if you're within 3 years, and then it's a felony if you're older than 3 years. I would be okay with a 16 plus 3, 17 plus 3 that keeps it in your age range and your age group. I think that's a reasonable law. I think 16 is ridiculous. 12 is unconscionable. Thank God it's not 12 anymore. I will tell you, when I posted this on my Facebook page, I got a lot of pushback from mothers of sons. One I had to defriend, who was just belligerent. You want to put my son in jail? You're the problem. It's
How old's your son?
I think your son was like 18 years old.
Well, the Romeo and Juliet law.
Yeah, which they didn't want to hear about that. But yeah, the Romeo and Juliet law would fix that, right? So I think the pushback's coming from moms who don't want their sons to go to jail because they happen to fall in love with someone younger. But I don't think there's many people that say, hey, 44 is perfect, 50 is perfect. Yeah, 50 and 16 is that's within the law. It's legal. Yeah. So let's do that. So I'm in the process of organizing that an effort to change the law. And I think we've missed this legislative session. We have elections coming up in November, and it's really too soon to make a dent before the elections. Not that I'm not going to try. So be on the lookout for that. So part of this platform is also to try to do some good for parents and children, men, boys and girls. Yeah. 16 is too young.
You can be a victim, male or female.
Yeah.
For sure.
Exactly. So 16 is too young. So let's do something to change that part of the law. And I think, so that'll be something that we'll hear more of. Definitely a passion, something I'm very passionate about. And you know as well. So we'll chase that down. And let's end this very first podcast on some good, let's end on some good feelings, or good things. So coming up, I'll tell you who I got coming up. I got, like I said, I got TJ Edmond tomorrow. We'll be sitting down here with the songwriter. I'll tell a funny story about TJ, which I'll tell it with him. But I wrote "Walk Don't Run" song I wrote for you, and he fixed the bridge, and I'm gonna explore this with him tomorrow. But it's pretty funny how he did it. So it is the song it is today because TJ made some very blunt comments on the song. So I'm looking forward to confronting or exploring that with him. But no, it was good. So and then I guess that's about it.
Yeah. All right.
All that it. How do you feel? I feel released. Feel
good?
good? I have been released. Awesome. All right, we are out of here. We will be back tomorrow. Woohoo!